Yeah, I've got a
Hello,
good rule here.
everybody. Welcome to the Women's Lounge. We are glad that you're here for us this evening. We actually have some repeat panelists that you've been seeing over the last few weeks. It's just a different ones of us all grouped together tonight, and we're really excited to talk to you tonight about your why. It's something that a lot of times gets taken for granted. Sometimes we forget how important it is to really understand the reasons why we do what we do, because we get so caught up in the daily grind of specific actions that we're taking and different patterns of behavior that we allow ourselves to fall into when we originally set a goal. But sometimes it's important to just step back and take a look at why we're doing what we're doing so that we can actually learn from what the results have been and readjust our sails. And it's also super important to have this understanding because it allows us to be able to reflect at times to say, is what I was originally planning for going in the way that I wanted it to, and do I have different adjustments to make? Am I even speaking to the right people when I'm writing my messages or when I'm targeting different audiences? And so there's a lot of different reasons why it's really important to make sure that we have a good grasp and a good foundation on what's really important to us. So we're going to take a look at that from the different aspects of all the different wonderful panelists that we have tonight, share a lot about what we've learned and the adjustments that we've had to make in our own sales along the way, and hopefully save you some time by learning from the strategies that we're going to talk about tonight. So tonight we have Ekaterina, Tiffany, and Pippa all on board for the discussion. So we've got some really great stuff to share with you and can't wait to kick it off. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick on Tiffany for a second. She hasn't been on in a few weeks, and have her introduce herself really quickly and talk about why she wanted to talk about her why tonight.
Awesome. Thank you. It's nice to be back. And yeah, I'm Tiffany, living in Canada. Bernie and I are part of the traveling dog. I guess dogs are a little bit of our why as well. And yeah, just kind of throw a question on what we wanted to talk about tonight. And I think why is just one of the most important things that we need to understand before we can go ahead with what our projects are or what we want to lead people in, or a lot of things about our life. So really any person or organization can explain what they do, and most of them generally can explain how they do things, but very, very few people can clarify and articulate why they do it. All right, so if you sort of think of maybe a bullseye and you have the what on the outside, the how in the middle, and then that why should always be your target. And I think that's the most important thing to figure out and have strong before you can start creating the things on the outside, right? So often when you ask people what their why is, and we found this a lot, I think, since I've been working on some of this stuff, and I have someone comes to me that's really confused, or some people in my group that are looking for, the leadership, that's one of the first questions we ask them. And they often look stumped, or they sort of stutter at an answer, and they think, I don't really know. And you see them sort of go into that deep thought, and it might sound like a simple question, but it's often something they have to think about. Or another quick answer they often say is money. And money, I don't think money's an answer. Okay, why is not about money or profit? Because those are results that you can get from your why. So why is the thing that inspires us and all the people that are around us. Okay, so it's more of a passion or a vision. Maybe it's a goal that you have, or maybe it's someone that you love. So I know a common one in some of the people that we're sort of surrounding ourselves are their families. And that can be a very strong why as well. Often, to live your why, you need to make more sacrifices too. So I find that it doesn't always come by easy when you discover what your true why is. And we were chatting today, I was chatting with Bernie about this, and we started talking about kids. And he made a great point how kids are always, they go through that phase when they're younger about always asking why. And you'll be like, go and do this, and they say why, or this is how this was, and they say why. And you sort of, as an adult, might find it frustrating, but how many times have you seriously gotten stumped by them saying that, right? And it makes us think too. So I think it's a good exercise for the upcoming week, since it's Sunday and we're starting off a new week, that you start to ask yourself why you're doing things. So why am I driving down this road today? Why did I just turn right? Why am I going here for lunch, right? And just start sort of practicing answering some of those questions for yourself. And it's kind of a way to sort of maybe, I don't know, bring out some answers that you weren't thinking, or make you start, realizing what you're doing, and digging a little bit deeper on why you choose what it is that you choose. And another point that, honestly, until I sort of came upon this new group and this tribe that I'm hanging out with, I never thought much about my why. And I find that a leader needs this. So whether you're in an organization, whether you're in a giant company, whether you're in a small group of people, the leader needs a why, and they need to portray it, okay, to have a solid following beneath them. And I think it's really important that, their why might be similar to yours, and maybe that's why you're drawn to them. I think it works better that way, but it's very important that if you plan on leading, that you have to know, because if not, I think, Jess, you sort of said that too, then it's frazzled. Well, why are you doing things, right? And you're all over the map, and you're not having that consistency in that sort of stuff too. So I guess my challenge to everyone this week is to start asking yourself why, and asking other people why they do stuff. That's our new favorite question. If we meet someone out and we're talking, we're out for dinner, we're out for a beer, and there's someone sitting next to us and they're complaining about work, our favorite question always to ask them is, why do you do that? And do you enjoy it? And the answers are, you'd be surprised how some of the answers are quite similar, but we learn a lot from these wiser, older people that, give their answers to us, and it's things that we learn from. So start to do that and see what your reactions are. Can you hear me still? Okay. Cool. Yeah, that's all. I don't know. I don't know if Jess is still there. Oh, yeah.
Oh, sorry. My internet is a little frazzled. Can you hear me?
That's all right. Yeah, I can now.
Jess, are you double computering it tonight?
No, I am not. Do I show up twice?
I see two of you. Yeah.
Well, that's really odd. Sorry, guys.
Double
Don't
power.
apologize. Exactly. I was thinking that was awesome. Oh, it went away.
You almost had a twofer tonight.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. So yeah, Tiffany, I'm sorry I lost the end of your statement.
Oh, I don't even know. Just, I said about the wise words that I sort of get, and often when we're out now meeting new people, or people that are, upset with where they are in their lives, that's the biggest question that we like to ask them is what's their why? Why are they doing what they're doing? And just, again, that pausing and seeing them think, I think it's something that they go home and think about. And even if we've never met them and we're strangers to them, we've definitely left them with something to think about. Or if they have an answer, it's something that we take with us and we can learn from too.
Awesome. Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely interesting, like you said. I've many times in my life put myself in the position of, wow, what if I was a child? How would I look at that? Because, like you said, it's amazing how, interestingly enough, some of the most important and productive behaviors we've had when we were children, and they sort of get socialized out of us. And so the basic things, one of my favorite things is that everything I ever needed to know I learned in kindergarten, right? Because it's like what are the most important things? If we're not teaching them to our children, then there's obviously something, clearly interesting about the value system that we're portraying. So, the simple things in life, like be kind and ask questions. It's all very, basic stuff, but at the same time, we get caught up in our day-to-day life a lot of times, especially with, the daily grind. And as I like to say, in a lot of the videos that I've been making lately, I've been talking about what it takes to, actually make change in the world. And it really just comes down to looking at things from a fresh perspective and really asking, why are we doing things like that? And like you said, too, how many times that we've had conversations with our friends or family, or even been there ourselves in the past, where we've gone, wow, I really don't like that I'm spending all of my time doing, this job, and I don't feel like I get paid enough. Or it might be, I really wish I got more vacation time, or I wish I had more time to spend with my friends and family, or I would love to start this new hobby, but I don't have enough time because I'm working so much. Or to not even recognize, oh, well, I wish I had more time, but then not question ourselves when we get into habits like watching television or, doing other things that become habitual, but we never stop to ask ourselves why we started doing that in the first place. And the interesting thing is, a lot of time it's because the questions that we answer, or the answers to that question, is going to be a hard one a lot of times. Usually it comes from the space of, well, I did it because that's the way that everybody else was doing it, and so that's what I thought I had to do. Or because I didn't have a better answer, I didn't know a different way to do it. Or because, it was the easiest thing to do. Or we might even have some really deep answers to that question of why am I doing that comes down to, well, because it's become a habit, or because I'm using it to escape my reality. And so, how many times do you actually have conversations with people and they say, oh, yeah, I really wish I would, not party as much, or I wish I could, stop smoking, or I wish that, I didn't drink as much, or, different things like that. And then you really start to think, and ask them questions about that. And it's a hard conversation to have. Those questions don't get asked a lot sometimes because the answers to them are harder to come to grips with. There's a level of ownership and accountability that we have to take for our actions when we start answering those questions. So it is, something that I really encourage people to stop and think about, like, why, if you're spending your time doing something, just the very act of you spending your time doing it makes it the most important thing in your life right now. And what I mean by that is, clearly, if there was something else that was more important to you, then you would be doing that. So consciously or subconsciously, whatever you're choosing at the moment, you are making the most important thing in your life. So really think about that the next time that you say you don't have time to do this or that, because it's a really hard conversation to start. It takes a lot of self-reflection and personal responsibility to start asking ourselves those questions. And so it's definitely a challenge that I would love to open to the Women's Lounge ladies, and I will post a challenge in there this week to see, exactly where do we stand on that, because I'm going to ask myself some hard questions and challenge everybody out there to do the same thing of, if there's something you're trying to change about yourself, or something that you're looking to find more time, what's that thing that's taking your time, and why were you doing it in the first place? And how can you consciously choose to do something different if you wanted to make a change? So good topic, Tiff. All right.
Love it. Never gets old.
Yeah, absolutely. Pippa, I'd like to hear from you and what you feel is important about your why, or what you'd like to share with the ladies tonight.
Well, that was awesome, both of you guys. And Tiff, when you were talking about how children, have this incessant need to ask why, I believe that we are, I don't know, maybe we're pre-programmed as humans to feel an intrinsic motivation to do things, and I sort of equate it to, well, really I think it applies to everything, but when I think about it in my life, it's most relevant when I'm thinking about schooling and the typical public school system. So I homeschool my kids, and the primary reason that my husband and I do that is because we believe in allowing human beings to find their intrinsic motivation to discover what it is about which they are impassioned, and then follow those passions. And that's sort of based on the belief, and also like the constant reaffirmation, just through my experience, that when we are in when we're in vibrational alignment with something that we have passion for, then it becomes easier to do it. We want to do it, and it becomes relevant. But at that point, you're like a manifesting machine. Like, you almost can't help but to manifest into your life those things that you're setting out to achieve, because you're in vibrational alignment with those things. And so that's why I think it's so important to really understand why you're doing things, which again is why children ask why all the time, because in fact they really do want to know why. I don't think they're just doing it to be irritating, and at some point they might be, but I think we as humans truly have an intrinsic need to understand what it is that that is the reason behind, doing something. And so my why is sort of, it morphs, and through time it kind of changes from maybe one specific thing to another specific thing, but always my general overarching reason that I try to focus on for doing everything that I do, from getting out of bed in the morning to being here with you ladies tonight. And let me just say, I'm so glad that I'm here with you guys, and I can't imagine a cooler group of ladies to be hanging out with right now. But the overarching why is so that I can not only ensure my own path to that freedom, but also model that for my children, so that they understand that the way that they're living their lives right now, the purity and the inquisitiveness and the desire and the passion that they lead every day with, is exactly how they should live every single day of their lives.
I love that. Yeah, that's amazing. It's actually, Pippa, sounds a lot like the education program that my nonprofit is developing. So you probably want to take a look at some of that stuff. It's
you are correct. I do.
Yeah, onecommunityglobal.org. We have complete lesson plans that are based off of this concept that you were describing, of letting people really develop their passions and interests, and helping guide children to follow and continue asking those questions, and become a very holistic human being just by, allowing the exposure to different things to become a natural, productive element to life. So yeah, I think that's where I see us as adults right now, really the importance of cultivating that same inquisitiveness within each other is extraordinarily important, because as we start to develop our next generations, in order to really have the children exhibit those behaviors, we have to be able to model them first. And so I really think it's a really good point to bring up, that we also need to always hold each other accountable to the highest standards. And that's why I really like that you brought up our tribe, because I think that that's exactly what we're doing, right? As we talked about a few weeks ago in the Women's Lounge, is the circles that you engage in are going to be a large portion of the product that you receive and the outcomes that you're heading towards, because it's such a huge part of the experience that we're forming and the different exposure that we get. So yeah, I think you brought up some really good points with that. So thank you.
So this is probably obvious, but I just had like a little bit of an aha, how sometimes like things just like come around full circle. And so when you mentioned the tribe and the circles that we create for ourselves, and the community that we create, and that's exactly why it's important to create these communities. So again, it's why it's important to create these communities, and it because whether you realize it or not, everything is intentional. Even when you're like, oh my God, I didn't mean to do that, but didn't you? I mean, maybe because you omitted to put some thought towards it, you kind of meant to do that. And I think that's another really important aspect of this whole conversation.
Yeah, that is a good point, right? that's what I was talking about before of where we sort of tend to have this sort of it's a lot easier. It's a lot easier, even though we've all been there. Those of us who have broken out of the cycle, it's different experience. That I sometimes have a hard time explaining to people that are still within it. And there's nothing wrong with wherever you're at in your journey. It's just everybody's at different points in their journey. So I know that those of us have made some major changes in our life and living in a completely different paradigm than other people are now. It's different. It's very interesting to look back, to reflect on those experiences and say, wow, it was really easy for me to make excuses for myself and say, oh, well, that's just the way things are. And so now by having a big reason why to get out of that, it helps us to cope with the level of responsibility that life actually has. And so by having a really good reason why, a really big dream for ourselves, a really big vision, a really big goal, it helps us be able to cope with the level of responsibility that each day, each action, each decision we make or don't make, we're always making choices. And the outcomes, the things that happen in our lives, the circumstances that we experience are ours, that we created, whether we understand how we got to them or not. And so it is a huge level of responsibility when we start asking, the reasons why behind things, especially like I said earlier about why we have a certain career, why we're doing certain things the way we are. And it comes down to a level of, it's a lot easier to say that's just the way things are than to take that personal responsibility. So it's definitely a huge paradigm shift. It opens a whole new world for a lot of people that sometimes is a little bit difficult to deal with. And so that's why I think these support groups are so important. The Women's Lounge, the different groups that you start on Facebook groups, you can engage with, whether different forums, different social websites, different meetup groups that you can do. Whatever it is, it's so important because it helps you to see how each decision you make, whether you're conscious about it or not, is got results, and then we can actually talk about it as a group, and we can help each other to understand and to move forward. I know Tiffany, for example, has had some pretty big changes going on in her life and how she's viewing things, especially around these new experiences with like how the law of attraction stuff works and stuff like that. And she was super excited just to Facebook me one day about a story. She's like, I don't even know who to share this with, So it's why those communities are so important. And so I want to give Ekaterina a chance to jump in. And I've seen her camera off a few times, so I wasn't sure when you were available, but I see you now. So.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jess. No, you've ladies made some really great points as to why we do things, why we think the way we think, why we eat what we eat, and one of my biggest whys was my son. I wanted to be there for him, and about 6 months ago, joining this group and being around all these wonderful, positive people, that I actually started to think about my why. Why was I in my business 7 days a week? Why couldn't I, pursue another career or another opportunity? And this is the time that I actually started to open up, being open to other opportunities and seeing that, this isn't the only thing that is available out there for me. Ladies, I have to jump off for a second. Jess, can you get me back on? I just have something going on here. Can I jump back on just in a little bit? I'm sorry. I apologize for that.
All right. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so just to bring that back around, she started to, have some really great points that we wanted to talk about tonight, which was for those of us out there that have jumped into, this entire different realm that a lot of times isn't even understood by our friends and family. to, give up working the traditional job. I know for me, it was a huge, huge deal because I had an extraordinarily successful corporate career, and I was, working at the executive level. I got paid extraordinarily well, and, it took me 8 years and 5 promotions to get to the position that I worked for, and then I was only in it for a year. Very highly coveted position within the company that was a lot of competition to get. And when I quit, people thought I was nuts. And, trying to tell people that I thought I could do better in life than what they were already coveting was just, like, how do you say that nicely? So I really just, didn't say much of anything at all because I didn't want to be offensive to people. But for me, I realized that I had outgrown my potential in life by working for somebody else. I realized that I was worth more than working for somebody else for 50 plus hours a week, that I didn't have the impact that I wanted to. I didn't have the reach that I wanted to because I was limited to, the organization I was working with. I had an entire territory that I was the leader of, the training and development program for all of leadership and sales. And I mean, I had a huge, large number of people that I was influencing from the top level down, but at the same time, I knew that there's got to be some way that I can impact world change on a much bigger scale. And so for me, my reason why and my vision actually changed into something that, for a lot of people, it sounds like I'm crazy. And, I'd rather, be crazy any day than to, experience a limited capacity of what I think that I'm worth. And so it was really interesting. My cousin just posted something on my Facebook wall the other day, and I just want to read the quote to you guys because I think it's super powerful, and I'll pull the picture up for you in a minute if I can. It says, "Normal is getting dressed in clothes that you buy for work and driving through traffic in a car that you're still paying for in order to get to the job that you need to pay for your clothes and the car, and the house that you leave vacant all day so you can afford to live in it." So think about that.
That's great.
I'd rather be crazy than normal any day. When you put the definition of normal that way, and that's what we all, what we all do. We got caught in this rat race of, having to go to work, having to buy clothes to go to work, get a car to go to work, so we can pay for the car and pay for the clothes that we needed to go to work, so we can pay for the house that we're leaving empty all day, so that we can be at a job so we can pay for the house.
It's so true too. I don't have a lot of occasion to sit in traffic, but when I do, especially in the mornings, I mean, granted, there are some people who are truly impassioned by, what it is that they get up at 7 a.m. to do. But what I see on these faces of these people is just, it's as if I can read all of their minds, and every one of them is just, oh my God, another day of this. And it's pretty heartbreaking to see that, the majority of people are doing something that they don't necessarily love to do because A, they haven't really put a lot of thought towards what they would rather be doing, or B, because they're terrified to do something else. And when you were talking about what it felt like when you decided to leave that position, knowing that everybody else would have, given their left arm to be in that position, you had this realization that there was something that you had a calling and that you weren't fulfilling that calling. And most people just don't, I think, because it's terrifying when people think you're crazy, they think you're nuts, and part of them, maybe they don't really hope you'll fail, but part of them, I think, is equally afraid to see you succeed, because then it's one fewer thing they can use to justify what they're doing. And I think it's a sad cycle, and we teach it to each other until we decide to stop teaching it to each other and surround ourselves with people who are teaching us something different than that.
Yeah, and it's very much like what you're saying, Jess, too. There's that difference in being successful and feeling successful, right? So in this book that I read, it talks about they have this group of all these business people, and they say, okay, put up your hands if you have been successful. So as far as meeting your goals, maybe you've gotten a higher position in the company, like you were talking about, Jess, and you get higher and higher. So 80% of the people raised their hand, and they said, oh, we've been successful this year. And then the man says, keep your hand up if you feel successful. And then the majority of the hands drop, right? So that's sort of you being strong enough to take that inner feeling and do something about it. And I think that's really great advice. And I know it's not as easy for some people, but this is why we're here to help, or to hear stories that you have as well, right? And it's sort of that disconnect between what you're doing and instead of your why are you doing it, right? So what are you doing? You're working, you're being successful, you're earning money, but are you truly happy?
Right.
So I love hearing that story, because I don't get tired of it when you share that, and it helps with lots of people that we know. It doesn't relate to me personally, because I've always had fun jobs and I've never really worked 9 to 5, but there's so many people in this world that has, and we're here to help them too and help them follow their passion. So
yeah, I know. I really liked when you said about the calling, when you felt like something is calling you. I think, Pepper, you said that, where you feel like you just need to go, and you feel like you should be in a different place, and you feel like you should be around different people, and you should be around different energy. And this is exactly what happened to me. Coming from a perspective of owning a small business, if Robert Kiyosaki, the 4 quadrants, being an employee, being self-employed, being a business owner, and being an investor. Well, I fell into the self-employed quadrant, and you know what? I was self-employed, but I owned a job. I mean, I owned the job. It's crazy. And I don't know if anyone can relate out there, whoever's listening, to running a business with family. It's not easy, especially with the traditional family, where we just didn't have the same vision, and the influence of family and those that are around you. It's like they're wanting you to have the same vision and have the same dream. But guess what? My dream wasn't the same. And I just felt like something was calling, something was telling me, it was my son, my biggest why. I needed to change things. And, literally, when you start praying, and I prayed back in this September of 2013 for God to bring some kind of change into my life, to bring some people into my life who could show me that there is another way of living life, another way of being able to earn an income without having to have a job or having to be tied to a business. And you ask and you shall receive, and that's exactly what happened. I mean, you don't have to believe a word I'm saying, because I can only come from my own personal experience. But that's exactly what happened. I got a phone call from a friend introducing me to another way of living a life, and it's just like my prayers got answered, and now I'm here and I'm open to learning. And a lot of people, I feel like, are closed up when you start talking about, making changes and asking people, well, what is your biggest why? People are afraid of admitting their current situation. They are afraid to admit their circumstances. And they just simply, they go to a job like a zombie, and they're so just closed up and uptight, and they're afraid to open up. They're afraid to let out that fear. They're afraid to, share their experiences and the struggle with someone else, because they're afraid to being criticized by the society, by that same family member or friend. And if you just try and ask yourself the question why, and open yourself up to another way of living a life, and listen to that person who's asking you just to at least try it. You can always go back if you choose, but at least give it a shot, because you only live once, one time. And another thing, when I hear people say, oh, don't worry, you have your whole life ahead of you. No, I don't have my whole life ahead of me. I need to do stuff right now. I don't want to wait. You know what? I mean, have you ever heard that? Oh, you have your whole life ahead of you. Oh, you're still young. You're 28. You're still young. I'm around, 30 years old in 2 years, and then I look at my mom and dad, and I look at other people, and talk to elderly people. Oh, they keep telling you, oh, I wish, I was 20 years ago, I would have done things differently. So
Right.
don't wait until you get to that age and you're going to be saying the same words. Learn from other people's mistakes. Learn from people who already are living a lifestyle that you want to have. Learn from their mistakes. Don't be stubborn. Just be open, and just connect yourself to a group of people who could show you that there's another way. And another thing is that you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. So it's totally up to you. But we're here encouraging you every week. We are committed being here to share our struggles. We're not afraid to admit the circumstances we're in. We're showing you exactly what we did and how we got connected to a group. And it's just, we're here. And it's just so wonderful being here, so energizing and so positive just being around all of you ladies here.
Yeah, absolutely. You brought up some really, really great points. So I'm glad that we have each other to bounce each other's ideas off of, and to really share our passions. And the more that we can be okay with our our weirdness, for wanting to start our own businesses, for being entrepreneurs, for being different, it's going to inspire other people to do the same. It's the same thing we were talking about with the children earlier. It's like, we have to be good models. We have to be good models for what we feel is important. If we feel that we wish we had more time in life, then why aren't we taking the time to do the things that are important to us right now? If we feel like we feel like, oh, you're young, you have your whole life to do that. Well, if I wait and do it your way, then I will be you someday, and I won't have done any of those things, right? So it's very interesting how quick people are to say, oh, yeah, you're young, you can wait, but that's what I did, and I didn't get anything I want, all in the same breath. And so it's very interesting to see how those sorts of things play out, and that's why I think that us talking, as a group about what is your vision, what do you feel is important, and then how do you get it? It's so important because, like you said, we can sit here and focus on something as basic and rudimentary as money, but we don't actually want money. Do you really want to stack of pieces of paper? Do you really want, you know what I mean, like a bunch of coins piled up? If we don't want money, you can't do anything with the physical money of it. It's not money to get money and then put it in a big pile and say, yay, I'm going to go swimming in this big pile of money. I mean, that's not what we want. We want it because it gives us something. So the one big thing that we can really do to figure out our reason why is to keep asking, like Tiffany was saying, like children. We have to keep asking ourselves, well, why do you want that? Well, why do you want that? Well, why do you want that? And then typically, when you have your real root answer, because most of the time, it will make you so passionate and so inspired and so in touch with your true self that you'll actually start crying. And that's the experience that I had when I went through this process. Actually, it was an interesting experience, and I wasn't even thinking about bringing it up, but it's so relevant that I feel like I should, which is the first experience that I ever had with so we're all home-based business people, and the business that we choose to run through has these events all the time. And so they're basically events that help us to go through the processes that we need to internally to cultivate the capability within ourselves to be successful and to allow abundance and prosperity into our lives. And so a lot of times people think, oh, I have to go out here and do X, Y, or Z, physical activity in order to create prosperity for myself. But you can never get there if you have a whole bunch of garbage on the inside. You don't know why you're doing what you're doing. And so we have these events that go through both sides of those experiences. And I went to the very first one when I first joined and had no idea what to expect. I walked into it thinking, wow, this is going to be just some fancy smancy corporate event. I've been to a gajillion of these in my life. Oh, look, yay, it's a stage with fancy lights and a bunch of guys with microphones and costumes. Like, it looks like one of our, regional events that we hold in the corporate world in a big, auditorium. And we have a big rah-rah festival. Yay, big deal. I've been to so many of these. But then I ended up, really learning something because it was so much more than that. I was really focused on personal development and inspiring. And the experience that I had was one of the founders of the organization walked everybody through this meditation, which was a vision to really find what your goal and your passion and your big reason why is. And a lot of people, I think, only got to certain levels with it, but it really, for some reason, resonated with me at that moment because after I quit my corporate job, I just gave up on everything, and I just forget it. I'm just going to follow my passions. I'm going to go, with my intuition. I'm going to follow what my dreams are. I don't care. And so I ended up volunteering for a nonprofit organization, which is the best thing I've ever found in my life, and I'm still doing it to this day because I honestly believe that we are going to change the world. And the vision quest that I did in this organization that made me feel really like it was resonating with me was I found my big reason why. I found my vision, and it was specifically the words that came to me in that moment. It was like, oh, so, why did you join this company or whatever? And then it's, oh, well, because, I wanted to supplement my income. So I feel like it's important for me to be a volunteer, but I don't have a way for me to pay my bills. So, or I want to be a volunteer, so I need money. Well, why do you want that? Well, why do I want money? Okay, well, because I need to pay my bills, and I need to be able to buy food, and I don't want to have to rely on other people. And so it's like, so why do you want that? And you keep asking why, like we're little kids, right? And so you finally get to like, well, why is that important to you? Well, obviously because I don't want to have to worry about paying for my food and water and shelter and stuff, because the easier it is for me to do that, the more time that I have to do other things. Well, why is that important? Because I want to reach out and I want to help so many more people, and so the easier my lifestyle is for me, the more people I'm going to be able to reach, and the more money I'm going to have to spend on doing bigger events for more people and giving more. The more I get, the more I give, and then my vision expanded. So I finally got to the point where it's like, for me, the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing in life is because I truly believe that we live in a planet where every single person deserves food, water, shelter, and the education just because we're alive. And not only do I believe that that should be a basic human right, but I believe that we also live on a planet that has enough resources to do that if we were to open ourselves consciously enough to seeing how we could allocate our resources in a better way so that would affect everybody and the highest good of all. So that's my big reason why. And so now every time I look at what am I doing in my business, what am I doing today, what am I doing for the next week, what am I doing for the next month, it's all centered around that vision. So until you can get to your biggest reason why, and like for me, when I got there, I just started crying. I'm like, oh my God, this makes perfect sense, and I can make my whole life make sense now. I have meaning, I have purpose, I have a vision, I understand what I'm doing, and I can place all of these little things that didn't seem to fit together in my life before, like, why am I interested in learning about online stuff? Why am I interested in, working with this particular organization? Why am I meeting these type of people? Or why am I interested in meeting these type of people? It all starts to make sense when you have that big reason why. And then if you have things that are coming into your life that don't fit with that, it's so much easier to prioritize because you say, well, that doesn't fit with this. So either it's a project that goes on the side for something else, or it doesn't belong with what I'm doing. And it's really easy then to say, well, my value system is this because this is my end goal and this is what I'm really striving for. And so if something pops up that's not in alignment with that, it's really easy to not make those decisions anymore. I come from a background and a culture in my hometown where it's just like everybody drinks alcohol, like for everything all the time. I mean, just that's what people do. Like my family, my friends, everything. Like everything is like we're surrounded around alcohol. And like I realized that because of where, how important these things that I'm doing are to me. It's just like I have no desire. I don't have any desire when I go back home to participate in any of that at all anymore, because it's just not where I'm at. It's not part of my value system anymore. It's not part of my goals and my direction, and I feel like it becomes that easy and that clear to see, is this in alignment with where I'm headed, this overall big why? If it's not in alignment with this, it's either going to make it so that it's easier for me to get there, or it's going to be a block and it's going to be harder for me to get there if I do this thing. So then it becomes really easy to say, well, duh, easily I can choose not to do that because it doesn't align with the direction that my overall general path is, my big reason why, my big vision for myself. And it doesn't align with what my values are based off of what that vision is and all this other stuff. So that's where I wanted to share tonight, was how important it is to really get to your root core of why you're doing what you're doing and what is important to you and what is your value system. Because now you can actually start making your daily action items list based off of that. And I'm going to teach you guys in one of the upcoming weeks here a complete system that I've developed for that. It's actually makes it so easy to understand how to prioritize based off of that. So just something I wanted to let you guys know is coming in the future. So with that, I want to bring it back to, it looks like Pippa's got something to say.
Well, I'm so glad that you brought up the part about that piece of why it's important to have the clarity on your why, because not only will it, sort of help you be in alignment with your passion, but like you said, once you have a very clear vision of your calling, of your reason why, of your why, it really just makes everything so much easier, because then you're like, oh, that's why I'm doing it. Does this help me do that? No. Does this help me do that? No. So you can drive down the road, and it's very easy to know when to turn left, when to turn right, if you have the directions, or excuse me, if you know your destination, or if you know where it is that you're trying to get. There was something else that you said that like totally sparked an idea, and then I lost it when you mentioned that, because that was really cool too. But one of the things that I have found helps me to stay on track and stay on task with the path that that I realize I'm supposed to be on, is surrounding myself with other people who also either are clear or see the value in getting clear and are working on determining that, like this group that we are involved with. And I think that there's no way that I could place a value on this group in having people who are like-minded around you. And something that you mentioned, it just sort of had me thinking about the nature of our universe and the duality, and either it is helping you progress or it's stopping you. And if your why is strong enough, and that exercise that you were talking about, I think I was at that same event, was that in Chicago? Because that was so incredibly powerful, and like you said, it was just like when we were little kids. Well, why? Well, why? Well, why? Whatever your answer is, that's never the answer. Well, eventually it will be, and like you said, when it is the answer, you'll know it, because it'll speak in your heart, and you will have you'll have a visceral response and a visceral reaction to that answer, and that's when you know, and that's when you have found the direction that you need to take. So I'm glad you shared that. Thank you.
Woo! I'm glad that somebody else had that experience too. It's just amazing looking around the audience. There's like, I don't know, 4,000 people or something at that event, and the number of people, like the energy in that room was the most intense energy I've ever felt, and people just
it was vibrating,
bawling.
Yeah, that was, and and clearly that was an exercise that was necessary, or else so many people would not have been sort of radiating and resonating in that same energetic field, because there is something so far beyond powerful when you realize it, when you finally figure it out. It's like the light suddenly comes on, and suddenly, you know, the world is illuminated like it's never been before. Excuse me, but keeping that focus, keeping on that track can be the challenging part when the people around you think you're kind of crazy.
Yeah, and that's, I don't know, it's amazing. You guys are throwing out so many awesome things tonight. That's just bringing me back to, my why, but then am I really living it every day and living for that to be my goal? And I think you've just thrown out some great reminders that there's some things that I do that aren't contributing to that in a positive way, and it's just little things I forgot about. So thank you. It's awesome.
No, I love you, ladies. I love you all. I appreciate you so much. You have no idea. Just everything that has been shared today, and to all of you out there, is we're born with this with a disk. It's like like a memory, like a USB, where stuff just gets saved by stuff we learn from our parents, from our friends, from the society. So don't wait. Don't wait until you're 40 or 50 or 60 and you're going to be regretting stuff. You don't have your whole life ahead of you. Act now. Erase some of those memories from that disk that you have been carrying with you, and replace it with new stuff that works. Get rid of the stuff that doesn't work, because obviously if you are where you are and you don't like the way things are going, that means you need to change something. That means some stuff that you have on your disk doesn't work for you. So change it up. Join a group like the Women's Lounge. Join a community group. Go volunteer. Get yourself around some positive people and start replacing those. Replace it with some new ones that will. And just really and I know it's hard, the challenge, like you said, Peppa, the most challenging part is just to stay on that course, is having that clarity, and you will have bumps, and ups and downs, and the road might not always be rocky, and then you will fail. And it's just, and that devil, that Satan inside will tell you, well, just go back. It's just so much easier how you were. Remember, you don't have to worry about it. Everything is like home. Everything is, so comfortable and nice and cozy in that little, in that old life of yours where you didn't have to worry about things because you're trying to make some changes. So every time you hear that little voice in your head, just shut it off. Just go, just turn the volume down and just keep on going. Just don't stop. Or whenever you feel like you're having one of those moments, hop onto the group on Facebook, or hop into, call your friend that that's always there for you, to bring you, just to snap you back. And it could be a sentence, just a word, or just a little lift that you need just to get over that bump. And just keep on going. Just don't stop. Don't stop. Just don't stop.
And I will add to that, if you really want to feel the power of a community that is supportive of you, like we are able to appreciate, somebody invited you here. Ask them how you can become more deeply involved with them, because if they're here and they invited you here, they're clearly desiring to be on that same path, and either they can hold your hand or you can hold their hand. And something a mentor of mine told me some time back, and it really resonated with me, because it's important to me to be of service to my brothers and sisters. And I think, like you do, Jess, that we're going to change the world. We are changing the world. But there are people who don't realize that yet, and their eyes aren't open yet. And there are a lot of people on this planet that need you, and it's time for you to get your house together. And that's what I tell myself when I start feeling like, oh my God, really? There are people that need me, and it's time for me to get my shit together. I have a responsibility.
Love it. Yeah, absolutely. And so that's just it. That's like that's the biggest thing is, once you have that reason why, now you're not only accountable to yourself, you're accountable to everyone to stay in alignment with that. Because when you allow yourself to slip away from your true self, when you allow yourself, like Katarina said, to listen to that old voice inside your head, that old way of thinking that you used to be in alignment with, you're allowing yourself to really not only, it doesn't just affect you. And I think that's the biggest thing that, you know, people in society are waking up to right now. It's affecting everybody else around you. By giving yourself permission to do that, you're giving everybody else permission to do that too. And what happens if everybody does? Then who's the ones that are actually showing the positive direction? Where's the future that we're trying to create, and how are we going to get there if we don't have enough people who even think it's important enough to hold the energy and the space to drive us in a positive direction? And so, yeah, it's a lot easier to, you know, sit around, turn on the TV, just drown ourselves in different habitual things that allow us to forget, you know, what's going on in our lives, or to allow this complacent lifestyle, because it doesn't take as much energy, or it's, you know, easier. But at the same time, you're going to complain about it later. Everybody does, right? So it's, oh man, yeah, and then my boss this, and then, oh man, I can't believe this person did that, and oh man, this is so crazy, I can't believe this happened. Well, I can believe it happened. I used to create that stuff for myself all the time. And I know this is going to sound a little bit weird for people who aren't there yet, but I actually have this really good friend that I met through our business. Actually, our business is just an interesting place where all kinds of people, from, you know, corporate executives to, you know, people that are making over $1 million, to people that are 21 years old and making 30 grand a month. It's just ridiculous. We've got hippie Jedis and all kinds of crazy stuff going on in our business. But you know, this one girl I met is actually quite psychic. She's proved herself to be extraordinarily clairvoyant to me. She told me some extremely explicit, detailed stuff about myself that happened to me that there's no way you could guess in my past. And she told me some other things about my dreams that I had, personally, goals that I set for myself in my future that she saw coming true for me, which nobody could have ever guessed what those were, so they were so detailed. But anyways, she told me that literally by the year 2015, I'm going to be in a space where I literally no longer even attract anybody into my life that's vibrating at a lower energy, so that I will not even have those kind of challenges anymore. And so I see that already happening because of the people that I'm surrounding myself with. I have, you know, like, I sometimes forget, you know, what situations other people are experiencing and the things, you know, that they're running into in life, because I don't have those challenges anymore. I don't attract those kind of people into my life because I'm not thinking that way, and I'm not making decisions that are going to lead me to those kinds of people, and I'm not putting myself in places that I'm going to run into those kinds of people. It's like, I would never worry about, I don't know, somebody stealing something from me or something. It's never going to happen to me, and it's not being naive to say that, because I used to be in positions and places and space in my life where something like that could happen. But now I literally cannot attract those kinds of situations anymore. And so I just want you to know that it is possible to get there. It is possible to create from a space where you're literally attracting only wonderful, cool things into your life, but it takes a large amount of change and personal responsibility and personal accountability to get there. But if you have a big enough reason why, and you can use that as your compass, then it makes it all worth it. And it makes it a lot easier, because you can understand what it is you're doing and why you're doing it. If you don't have that, then yes, it's going to make a lot more sense to, you know, just live the standard lifestyle and not understand what's happening and say that things happen to you instead of you creating them yourself, because you're not even understanding why it's important for you to put all this extra energy into it. And so that's why we wanted to talk about this stuff tonight, because it's important for you to take some time to really get to know yourself. And that's what's going to allow you to be really extraordinarily, potentially exponentially quickly successful in your life. And so I'm going to post some things up in the Women's Lounge resources area that really helped me to get there. And I have them hosted on my website, although they're free stuff that you can find in a lot of other places too. One of them is the Unstoppable family created this video called Perfect Day that they learned from someone else. And so I'm going to send a link to you guys for that, because taking a look at what you potentially want to do in your own perfect day, that should be a really good inspiration. If you're not doing what your perfect day looks like, then what do you need to do to get there to create that for yourself? And I actually did this in exercise when I was in Denver, which was 8 months ago or something like that. And I wrote down on my perfect day that I wanted to be living in a tropical place where I had access to fresh fruit and I could go on a walk on the beach at sunset every day. And now it's only like less than 8 months from then, and I'm doing that. I moved to Costa Rica, and at the time, I had just, was living with my mom. I couldn't pay for my own bills, all this crazy stuff. So it was so far out of the normal person's list of stuff that they would have written down when they were at the space I was at. But I didn't see any reason why I shouldn't be writing down what I really wanted. That was the whole point. And so the point of why I'm saying this is because when you can really get clear on what you want, then you can get it. But if you're not clear, you're never going to get it. So that's one of the tools I want to give you guys. And then the other one is the major definite purpose. And so I know if some of you guys are out there are on our team calls, we actually have Think and Grow Rich conference call for free every morning, and you guys are all welcome, whether you're on our teams or not, to join that. But the Think and Grow Rich conference call is really nice because it helps you to relate back to your major definite purpose and how you can actually speak that into existence by literally saying out loud to yourself every day. And I actually started doing that for a little while, and it made my life just went crazy, like explosions, rapid successions of being successful. So just two really valuable tools I'm going to post up there for you guys. So with that being said, I'm going to see if the other ladies have anything else to say. I know Ekaterina's got another call that she's hosting in just a little bit here, so I want to check in with her first in case she needs to jump off.
Is that, be careful, watch how you talk to yourself, because your thoughts become things. And for those who have children or are planning to have a family, because the children are the future, and don't let them ruined by this, because when your child grows up, his first or her first classroom is your home. So even now, like my son is getting to 7 years old, I'm really choosing my words of how I'm talking to him. Because before he used to, my biggest why is that, Mommy, please, I don't want you to go work on weekend. Please, can you just stay home? Can you please, not work? Why do you have to work all the time? And I started to ask myself, why the hell do I have to work all the time? I don't. He's really, I had to listen to my child to to start to realize that he needs me there. He's directly and indirectly is telling me that, Mommy, you need to change some stuff around. I need you to be there for me. So now when I talk to him, I'm being really careful about the things that I say, because I don't want him to grow up with that mentality that you have to be like the rest of the society. No, you don't have to work harder to make more money, and no, you don't have to go and work for someone when you can do your own thing. And it's just, I know we're almost wrapping up here, so just really choose of how it is that you're not only talking to yourself, but the things that you are saying to your children, because they will remember those things. You are the artist. Paint a picture for them, and they might not be able to realize it or see it the way you see it when they're young, but at least you can, because children are very imaginary. So it's really, it's much easier for you to explain to them and to paint an image of what another life can look like. Just, even if you're not there yet, just explain to them tell your kids your vision, your dream, where are you going? And then not only that, they're always going to remind you in case you're falling off the wagon and you're not doing what you should be doing. So be like, yes, thank you for reminding me about that. You are my why, and this is why I'm doing it, and we're going to get there, period. So just some last words. I get so pumped. I get so fired up when we get on this webinars.
I love it.
Love
I
it.
love it
Love
because I always think she's yelling at me, but it's just her passion, and I feel like I'm getting yelled at.
it.
I'll listen. I'll listen. I promise.
Awesome. Thank you for those lovely, lovely words. Pippa, Tiff, do you guys have anything left to say goodnight to everybody?
Yeah, good night, everyone. Thanks again for tuning in. Pass on to your friends. I believe the recording's up all week to watch, and I came on thinking we were going to have this nice little chat about things that I know, but again, I was humbled by these amazing women, and that's why I surround myself with people that are smarter than me and bring so much into my life. And yeah, it's crazy. I've got more to think about than I thought I did, so I'll have a good night's sleep and start the week busy again tomorrow. But I do thank you for that, so we'll see you guys soon. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And Pippa?
Thank you again for letting me be in the company of such amazing, powerful women. You guys are an inspiration to me. You never cease to inspire and amaze me. And I just wanted to add one thing when we were talking about well, I guess I sort of wanted to throw out there how to take everything that we're talking about this evening and the thoughts and the feelings that you're now conjuring based on this conversation, and how to kind of channel that into and how that translates into determining your target audience and building the team that is going to sort of increase your mission. I think that it really just comes down to the clarity of your vision and the clarity of your purpose and the passion that drives that, all of that putting you in vibrational alignment with what is true to you and true in your heart, and your audience will present itself to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So actually what we'll do is we'll post the homework assignment up for the ladies and have them do the perfect day and the MDP, and then next week we'll talk about targeting audiences based off of those two things. So we'll have some fun next week. All right.
Good night, girls.
So, thank you, ladies. Thanks for some wonderful words of wisdom. Like you said, Pippa, it's amazing being here and learning so much from each other. So what an amazing experience, and I'm glad that we got to share that with each other and with the world. So if you're here, invite your friends to next week's episode and have them watch this week's, and we'll talk to you soon. Love you guys. Thanks for viewing, and have a wonderful week.
Bye.
All right.